Last Friday, it was International Anti-Corruption Day. On this day, of all days, Belgian authorities carried out searches on several addresses in Brussels. As of last evening, 20 searches have been carried out. On suspicion of involvement in organized crime, corruption, and money laundering. They filed charges against 4 people, including 1 former member of this parliament and a vice president of the European Parliament. The investigations cover a wider network. They confiscated computers, smartphones, and over €500,000 in cash. We do not yet know what the results of this investigation will be. But one thing is clear. There must be zero tolerance for corruption. Corruption is a very serious crime that undermines our democracy, our economy, our society. I applaud the Belgian police and the Belgian authorities for the decisive action in this criminal investigation and for showing that prosecution and the law enforcement system work. And I applaud the officials and members of this House who are fully assisting this investigation. And I thank President Metsola for your personal support of the investigation, your decisive action, your resolve to meet this test and have the Parliament come out stronger. The allegations are extremely serious. The investigations are still ongoing and there is a presumption of innocence. But to anyone accepting payoffs, kickbacks, bribes, I say, shame on you. Shame on you for violating trust. The trust of the people of Europe who expect you to fight for their interest, not your own. And for violating the trust of your colleagues here in the Parliament who work very hard, honorably, truthfully, with decency. The only way we can rebuild trust is to fully support the investigations, for the guilty to be brought to justice, and for us to root out corruption anywhere we find it. As President von der Leyen said in her State of the Union speech 3 months ago in this chamber, corruption erodes trust. We must fight back with the full force of the law. And that's what we must do every day. Our anti-fraud office, Olaf, investigates fraud and corruption in the institutions. The European Public Prosecutor's Office fights crimes against the EU budget. We have a strong rule of law mechanism to help all member states fight corruption with annual monitoring and reporting, and now also clear recommendations. We set up a general law conditionality mechanism to make sure no money from the EU budget goes into corrupt pockets. We took steps to make sure no cent of COVID recovery money ends up in the wrong hands. The fight against corruption is central to our strategy against organized crime and a key target of European police cooperation under EMPACT. As a union, we need to learn the hard lessons and take responsibility, ensuring that we have better mechanisms and accountability in place. Get rid of differences in national laws that obstruct the fight against corruption. That's why I, next year, will propose a new law. We must criminalize all forms of corruption in all member states. Not just bribery, as is the case today, but also trafficking in influence, illicit enrichment, embezzlement, and abuse of power. And to impose tough EU-wide criminal penalties for these crimes. The Commission continues to support an EU ethics body for all European institutions, for the Parliament, Council, for the European Court of Justice, the ECB, the European Court of Auditors. and also its advisory bodies, the European Economic and Social Committee and the Committee of the Regions, without exception. So we can all live by the same clear principles, live up to the same high standards. President von der Leyen sent a letter to these institutions in March, and Vice President Jourova is carrying the discussions with our partners forward. Let me be clear. The scandal we discuss here today goes well beyond ethics violations. It's a serious criminal investigation. The Parliament's first response is the right one, to cooperate fully with the law enforcement. But there is anger and frustration in this House and outside. There is understandable outrage and frustration among the millions who believe in the European project, who saw the European unity helped us through the pandemic and helps us now in response to Putin's war. We built trust based on action, and now we must rebuild. The fight against corruption is mission critical for Europe, and we must have our own house in order first. Our standards should always be the highest. It's what we expect of others, and we must demand it for ourselves. Thank you.